Watch your Nooklings. So this is my Create This book. I got this, let's see, rather than guessing, in 2021. And I was doing a creative blog, crafting blog at the time. And this is what I decided to do with it. And for the rule page, I decided that I would draw something canine related on every single page, which, you know, that's great because I love dogs, as I've mentioned. And yeah, I just thought it was going to be a really cool idea until I started working on the book and realised I was actually putting myself in a bit of a box. Plus, I don't feel it really fits with the channel anymore. So with all of that, I decided to get a new one. Now, the old one won't be ignored. I will finish it, but it's going to be something I work on in my own time, not when I'm doing it for the channel or anything like that. I might occasionally, we shall see. But this, I'm really, really excited about. Smell that? Smells of new possibilities. So let's get into it. So I'm not starting with the cover, I'm going to start with the page edges. So, yep, really happy with how these turned out using Pal's colours. I will get to the cover possibly later in this video. It just depends because there's something I really want to test out. I'm not sure if it's going to work. I'm going to test it on the back because if it doesn't work, I'm not too fussed about the back compared to the front. But we are going to start on a page and I'm going to do something that Mariah did in hers. Needs to be done, where we break the spine. Didn't get the satisfying click, but never mind. So I am going to start with the rule page because I think that is the best one to start with. When I got this copy of Create This book, I had an idea of what I was going to do for the rule page on this occasion, and I was going to cover it in Nooklings. So I just sketched them here, there and everywhere. I didn't have a plan for the background. Several of these pages I didn't have full plans of what I was doing, and that kind of shows in the end results, but at the same time I'm really happy with the end results. There was a lot of sketching and playing around with poses, especially with Pal, who's the Nookling I'm sketching at the moment. I thought I was happy with it. I wanted him sort of with that dog head tilt to one side, but the way I executed it, it just looks like his head's been stuck on randomly. It's not actually part of his body, so I will fix that, but not yet. I just wanted to add some more Nooklings in, and this again is part of the reason why I didn't want to do the cover just yet, because the cover would depend on how many Nooklings I put on the rule page, which we'll get more into that later on. But yeah, I did have a lot of fun working on this. It took me a long time to get these pages finished. You will see when I add in the date that I started. It's just one of those, you know, between doing the day job and working on other projects, I knew this was going to take time. I wanted to take time over it. I didn't want to rush things. I wanted it to be more not necessarily cohesive, that's probably the wrong word, but just, yeah, not completely random and a bit more thought out. Though obviously, as I said, it's not completely thought out, but it's okay. I fix it in the end. Well, I say fix. You'll see what I mean as we go on. So obviously getting everybody lined, just double checking that it didn't bleed through, which it didn't. Though again, that's irrelevant because I do go into using alcohol markers, which of course do bleed through, but again, that's okay because, you know, it's easy enough to stick in pages. I did it with the other one that I was working on, and I did it with my Create Stuff Outside book, so, you know, I'm not adverse to doing that, and it is something I will do. I really like the idea of the Nookling hanging out the box. Yeah, I just love that idea, and I chose to use Koro for that one. He is the Nookling that features in my book that I'm working on. Sorry, I've not been talking all that long today, but it's still early-ish, so still early morning voice. Yeah, I just thought Koro would be the best choice for this one. And as I said, there we go. Now I fixed Pal. I just cut out a square of paper that I stuck him on, because I hated how he looked. The head tilt was just all wrong. I did use a reference image, but the way I executed it just didn't look good. So I'm much happier with this one that I fixed. I think I need to drink some more water. Give me 1 second. And we're back to colouring in Pal. Now, looking at the reference I had of him, I used the digital one that I created for the channel icon. However, when I then consulted the traditional one that I'd done when I did the colour guide in the original video where I introduced these guys properly, I realised I made a mistake on that. I didn't colour in one of his paws, and it should be pink. So when my new computer arrives, which should be any day now, I will fix that, and yeah, then it will look the way he's supposed to. It's not a major thing, but it just, now that I've realised it, it really bugs me. And onto this top girl. This was the one I labelled as Graffiti, the colour scheme, and I've decided that's her name. She is Graffiti. She is Pal's partner, mate for the, yeah, probably mate, I think. Just sort of in charge of the team of Nooklings that I have, and we've got a new one here, the first of the new ones, and this is Paint. She is based on a Scarlet Macaw. I've done quite a few new animal based ones recently, but there will be others that aren't based on animals. It's just these particular ones I really wanted to do, and I really love how Paint turned out. I think she looks really cute in those colours. However, you'll notice that I have left the bottom one uncoloured for now. There is a very good reason for it. That was probably the most awkward way of me colouring when I started the background. Why I did that, I don't know. It's just one of those, which is hence why I flipped the book around and continued on. And even putting down these colours, I still didn't really have an idea what I was doing with the background. I was just chucking down colours, and then it kind of came to me whilst I was doing it what I was gonna do, which we'll get to in a second when I start adding the details in. There were some areas where I either forgot to record, or I just worked on things off camera for various reasons. Some of it because this video is long already. Had I not sped everything up to the speed I did, because normally I stick around between 4 and 8 times speed, but all of this footage is at 16 because it was so long. As I mentioned in the posts, it was about 30 video files that I had to work with. So yeah, we were looking at several hours worth of footage. So I definitely had to cut it down. Yeah, so that's why it's not all on camera. But you know, it doesn't change what I did, and I had a lot of fun doing it. As I said, I'm really happy with how a lot of these pages turned out. I did do 3, this obviously being the first one, and again, like I said, just putting the Nooklings in was such a nice thing to do, because you know, they are my new creation and I absolutely love them. This is one of the things I did off camera when I realised what I was going to do, and I turned this into basically a Nookling corner. So it's a shelf in a room. That's what it's meant to be. Now the lines on the background are meant to be the wooden panels, and that was something I had intended on recording, and I was going to do it stop motion, but I messed it up, so there was no footage for that one, but never mind. And the little post-it note you'll see is a list of possibilities for that final Nookling, and I actually asked Jay for his input of what I should do, and he chose those 3, and I went for the tiger, because I really wanted to do a tiger anyway, and it just so happened that he picked one, which is always good when those things line up. The other 2 I will do. One of them is already hidden on this page. You probably won't see it. The little mess at the bottom of the box on the left, that is a Nookling nest. So it's all full, made of different bits of like office debris and stuff like that. And then I wanted to turn the box into like kind of like an easel, somewhere between that and a projector screen. Or a poster, something like that. And as you can see, I have put Nooklings everywhere as my rule. And I know what you're thinking, Amy, didn't you just say that you didn't want to put yourself in a box? And that's absolutely true, I don't, which is why I have put the logo for my book underneath, because obviously it's not a Nookling, it's dragon wings and a wolf paw print, and the reason being is that the true rule for the book is to put a fantasy element on every page. I just want to keep you guys guessing. Yeah, so that's the actual rule. And yes, there will be a lot of Nooklings in this book. That's just, like I said, when I created these guys, I kind of fell in love with them. So yeah, there will be a lot of them, I'm not going to lie. But at the same time, it's not just going to be Nooklings. There will be other things as well. But I'm going to stop waffling for now until we get onto the next page. To the title page, where again, like I did with Draw Stuff Outside, I put my name and the date before I'd done the artwork, which definitely was a mistake. Yeah, and as you can see, I started this on the 7th of June. Like I said, this has taken me some time to do. There were quite a few details in this, and particularly with the last thing I work on, we'll get to that when we get there. When I started this, I planned on just having a few random characters on this actual page, and that was it. No idea for the background, no idea if I'd do anything on the inside of the cover, because I didn't do this page in my first book. You know, I literally had no ideas, so I just kind of winged it. And again, like I said, you can kind of tell by the end results, but at the same time, I'm still really happy with how they turned out. So yes, we've got a Nookling peeking at the top, but that's what I wanted, just a brief sort of, yeah, just not quite hidden, but kind of hidden. And then we've added Patches in the bottom, because whilst he's retired as the channel mascot, I still love him as a character. And yeah, he's not going to fade away. He's not going to be forgotten. And then I added Stitch because I love Stitch, which I know I've mentioned that before. And then I did decide to add a couple of characters on the inside of the cover, and these guys are, you've got Ez down the bottom, who is my tiny T-Rex. I will link her video down below. And then right at the top is Georgie, who is Mariah's character, my favourite of hers, and he's there because I wanted a representation of Mariah. You know, this book is meant to be sort of almost like a collaboration between the two of us. So yeah, I had to include Georgie. Now, as you've probably noticed, I do tend to colour in no particular order, and I jump around a bit. I don't know if that's an ADHD thing or a me thing, probably a bit of both. But yeah, it's just the way I do it. And those bricks took forever to do. That's one of the reasons why everything took so long, was those bricks, because I decided that it would be kind of fun to have like a wall where almost like the sign was graffiti, but at the same time I've then kind of put that at the front of the image. So yeah, it's just one of those. Like I said, that's where you can kind of tell where I hadn't planned things out properly. Now, as for this particular pose for Stitch, I wanted to use this because I remembered from when Lilo and Stitch first came out, Disney did this. It wasn't quite a virtual pet, but it was Stitch that you could download to have running around your desktop, and he would do things like you could interact with him. He'd like jump up onto the cursor and pull it down. He'd lick the screen, hence the licking pose, and just all this kind of fun stuff. You didn't feed him or anything, you just kind of played around with him, and I loved having him on my computer. So that was why I chose that particular pose of Stitch. Just, yeah, it's very nostalgic to me, and it feels weird saying that, but discovering that Lilo and Stitch is actually about 20 years old at this point is kind of scary. But yeah, again, I love it. And as you can see, I did use graffiti for the Nookling for this one. I just thought she would be the best one to use on this page, because there's a lot of red, even the sort of red browns. So she would just pop a little bit more than the others. And I didn't want Pal to be like the main one I use, even though he is like the mascot for the channel. I just decided for the book, he would just sort of be in it every so often kind of thing. And then for this, the inside cover, I decided just to go for a simple outside background. I wanted Georgie to be hidden in a tree, but I also wanted to try and sort of, because Ez is a tiny T-Rex, I wanted to show that through scale as best as I could. So having the tree behind her and her being like really small hopefully emphasise that she's not a full-size T-Rex, and you know, she was never meant to be. But I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this one. So again, I shall stop waffling, let you guys enjoy the rest until we get to the final piece. onto the cover. This was a lot harder than I thought, and part of that is my first mistake was not using gesso, which is what I'd been talking about at the beginning that I was going to test out, and then didn't. I just thought I'd be fine going straight in with the acrylics, but of course using red and orange, they took several coats and I got a bit too eager to get onto the details, but we're not quite there yet. What I decided to do was do this sort of red and orange gradient, well, at least attempt a gradient. I've never done gradients really, so yeah, this was definitely a learning curve, and took several attempts to sort of get something I was happy with, and by the time I was happy with it, I ended up ruining it, but we'll get there when we get there. So the idea for this was I was going to do sort of a cliff, and then the orange is like the sand and the red the sky. So it's from my book. The sand is sort of reddy brown. I'll show it's hard to explain. It's natural. You see it here, even in the UK. We've got some red sandy beaches. And yeah, I really like that. So on the particular island where my main story is set, they have the red sand. Skies are normally blue, but for this I really wanted to do the red. I wanted the main focus to stand out quite a bit, plus I kind of have a theme in mind with all three of my creative books, even though I've only got this one at the minute, but you'll understand that when the time comes. But for now, yeah, I just did a lot of these details, just a little sort of prickly tree and this kind of short stubby grass that you get often sort of where you get the transition between sort of cliffs and the beach. And on the front I wanted it to be sort of more on the cliffs, and then on the back it was going to be more on the beach. However, what I end up with isn't quite what you see here, but again, we'll get there when we get there. And I did quite a lot of the grass originally on the back, and I really liked how it turned out, and I kind of wish I'd kept it and not messed it up, but you know, these things happened. To get the blend, found using a sponge was way easier to do, and this I've actually added in sort of the sea into this bit. I really wanted that on the back, just sort of a transition between the two scenes, and I think it works quite well. It's not as clear in the sort of updated version, which you'll see in a bit, but it's still there, it's still visible. I also love the texture that the sponge created. And into painting the main subject, who is my main dragon who appears in my book, and his name is Roland. There is a very good reason for that. If you know anything about names, his name actually means, I think it's Great Wolf, Legendary Wolf, something like that, but without giving too much away, there is a very good explanation as to why that is his name. And Roland is black and sort of electric blue, sort of cyan. I was a bit annoyed that I didn't really have a blue paint that matched his colours, but I did my best. I tried mixing something, just basically several shades of blue together, adding in a bit of white, that sort of thing. I got as close as I was gonna get with him. I had a blue that was probably a bit closer, however I was super hesitant to use it because when I used it on a sculpture, that paint is still tacky, and I painted it well over a year ago at this point. So yeah, it's not a good paint for sculpting, however it seems to be okay for other things. It's the same paints I used when painting on my mother-in-law's garden statues, and I did actually go over the blue of Roland and it seemed to be okay. It's not tacky, which is good. For his wings, the back of his wings, I added in a bit of blue and a bit of purple, so just so you could distinguish between the different details and that he wasn't a solid black mass, because obviously that wouldn't look great. And I think it came out quite well. I'm really happy with how he turned out overall. Dragons have always been a bit tricky for me, not so much drawing them, but deciding how I want my dragons to look. I think I may have mentioned it before. And yeah, now that I've actually done this and got him sort of fleshed out, I'm way happier with it. There is a slight change I made on his head, where you've got like the fin on the side. How I originally drew it, I thought it looked okay, but then looking back at it, not so much. So I think I fixed it. I can't remember. I'd have to look at the cover again, and it's not in front of me. But yeah, you can see here where I made the mistake, basically because I hadn't used the gesso to go over the black text, and I'd got too eager to work on the details. There was still a lot of black poking through, and of course because the orange was mixed, I could not match it again. I tried. So I ended up having to go over everything again. I had to redo the tree, redo the grass, and the rocks and everything. Thankfully I didn't have to redo Roland. I was able to paint around him easily enough, but yeah, it was really disappointing, particularly as the tree I don't think came out as good the second time around. But you know, it is what it is, and I learnt my lesson. Did cover it in Mod Podge, matte Mod Podge, and onto the back with the focus for this one. You may or may not see what this is at the minute, but again, something I'm really happy with, and I'm glad that I chose to do it. It is a Nookling, and this one is based on an orca. It's not got a name at the moment. If you have any ideas, let me know down in the comments below. But the final thing I'll say before I stop waffling is, for the wings I decided to use a wash to make them translucent, and I'm really happy that I did because I think it turned out great. But yeah, I'm going to stop waffling and let you enjoy the rest of the process. We are all done, and I am really happy with how these turned out despite all the little hiccups. So we've got the cover with Roland. The clouds aren't quite as obvious as they were, certainly not in the light. I think they were a bit pinker originally, but yeah, still really happy with those. Wrapped him round a little bit, didn't go perfectly, but again, part of that is because I hadn't actually planned to do that. But I kind of felt like it needed to. And then on Nookling, our little orca Nookling on the front, really happy with that. I realised I didn't record myself detailing this wing, no idea why, not sure what happened there. And then rule page, our little Nookling corner and all the Nooklings hanging out. Now the tiger actually is named Ramford, which I forgot to mention. Hubby named him. It's just, he has some odd name choices, but it's still cool. I did write it down because I knew I'd forget, but what I've done, which I'll show you in another video, is all the Nooklings that I've done a colour guide for. I've written their names on there so I don't forget anybody. And then we did the title page. Again, fairly happy with this one. Obviously this could have been a bit better, but yeah, overall happy with how it all came out. And I love that I included Ez again. She's always been a fun character that I've liked since I created her. Wanted to keep her and Graffiti hiding at the top. So yeah, really happy with the progress made so far. Not caught up with where the original is, how many pages I've done in that. Obviously we've got the edges as well. However, I feel confident that I'm gonna be able to get more done, and I've actually picked out the next 3 pages for the next episode. If you've got one of these and you have any ideas of pages you'd like to see me do, let me know in the comments below. If you don't, I'll be putting up a poll at some point for the next lot of pages I do. Just yeah, see how we go, get your guys' input, because I always enjoy hearing your feedback. So yeah, that's it for this one, guys. Remember to stay uniquely you. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you Nooklings next time.